Tonight we look at a new kind of weapon. It is a weapon that is changing the very nature of modern warfare. We are talking about hypersonic missiles. In simple terms, these are projectiles that travel at incredible speeds. They move faster than 5 times the speed of sound. That is more than 1 mile per second. Imagine a weapon flying from New York City to Los Angeles in under an hour. That is the kind of speed we are dealing with. This isn't science fiction anymore. It is a reality that military planners around the world are grappling with right now. The development of these weapons marks a significant leap in military technology, one that some experts say is as revolutionary as the invention of the stealth bomber or the nuclear bomb itself. The reason these missiles matter so much is simple: speed defeats defense. For decades, global powers have built complex, multi-billion-dollar defense systems. These systems were designed to track and intercept traditional ballistic missiles. They rely on predictable flight paths and a certain amount of reaction time. Hypersonic missiles completely upend that equation. The implications are profound. To truly understand the threat, we need to compare these new weapons to what came before. For years, the world's most feared long-range weapons were intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. An ICBM is launched into space on a massive rocket. It releases its warhead, which then travels on a predictable, high-arching path through the vacuum of space before re-entering the atmosphere to strike its target. While incredibly fast, reaching speeds of up to Mach 23 at their peak, their trajectory is largely set once the booster rocket burns out. Hypersonic missiles are a different beast entirely. There are 2 main types. The first is the hypersonic cruise missile. Think of it as a super-fast, air-breathing jet. It is powered by an advanced engine called a scramjet, which uses the vehicle's high speed to compress incoming air for combustion. The second type is called a hypersonic glide vehicle, or HGV. This weapon is launched on a rocket, similar to a ballistic missile, but the warhead is a maneuverable glider. Once it reaches a high altitude, the glider detaches and travels back towards its target at hypersonic speeds. Unlike a ballistic warhead that follows a fixed arc, the HGV can pull up, dive, and make sharp turns. It can surf along the upper edges of the atmosphere, effectively skipping like a stone on water. This unpredictable movement means defenders cannot simply calculate its trajectory and fire an interceptor. They are forced to guess where it will be next, a nearly impossible task at Mach 5 or faster. Hypersonic missiles offer the best of both worlds from an attacker's perspective: the extreme speed of a ballistic missile and the evasive, terrain-hugging flight of a cruise missile. The question is, why are major world powers pouring billions of dollars into this technology? The answer lies in the pursuit of strategic advantage. For countries like Russia and China, developing hypersonic weapons is seen as a way to counter the United States' overwhelming conventional military superiority and its advanced missile defense systems. For decades, the United States has invested heavily in systems like the ground-based mid-course defense and the sea-based Aegis system. These are designed to protect the U.S. homeland and its allies from a limited ballistic missile attack. From Moscow and Beijing's perspective, these defenses could one day threaten the credibility of their nuclear deterrence. Hypersonic missiles are the asymmetric response. They are a tool designed to bypass these expensive American shields. For China, the strategic calculation is similar but with a regional focus. The People's Liberation Army is developing hypersonic weapons, like the DF-17, that could be used to target U.S. aircraft carriers and military bases throughout the Pacific. The result is a new, high-tech and incredibly dangerous arms race among the world's 3 leading military powers. This brings us to the most pressing question of all: are we defenseless against a hypersonic missile attack? The stark and uncomfortable answer, according to many top military officials, is that, for the most part, yes. Our current missile defense architecture is simply not designed to counter this specific type of threat. The entire system is built on a layered approach primarily aimed at intercepting ballistic missiles. This starts with space-based sensors that detect the bright, hot plume of a missile launch. It then uses ground and sea-based radars to track the warhead as it travels through the predictable arc of space, finally launching interceptors to destroy it. The problem is that hypersonic weapons exploit the gaps in this very architecture. However, they fly at a much lower altitude than ballistic missiles, below the gaze of many space-tracking radars. They cannot see a low-flying object until it is much closer, drastically reducing warning time from 20 minutes for an ICBM to potentially just a few minutes for a hypersonic weapon. Even if we could detect and track one, Hitting it is another matter. Intercepting a target moving at more than 3,800 miles per hour is an extraordinary challenge. It's been compared to hitting a bullet with another bullet. Now imagine that first bullet is also dodging and weaving. That is the challenge of intercepting a maneuverable hypersonic missile. General John Hyten, a former vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has been blunt about the situation. For now, the primary defense against a hypersonic attack is not a physical shield but the old concept of deterrence. This is not just a theoretical discussion. The evidence of this new arms race is appearing in news reports with increasing frequency. Russia has not only tested its hypersonic systems, but has also claimed to have used them in combat. In March 2022, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced it had used its Kinzhal air-launched hypersonic missiles to destroy a large underground weapons depot in western Ukraine. While the strategic impact of this specific strike is debated among analysts, the psychological message was clear. Russia was demonstrating to the world, particularly to NATO, that it possessed and was willing to use this new class of advanced weaponry in a real-world conflict. China has also been making headlines with its ambitious testing program. In the summer of 2021, U.S. intelligence was reportedly caught by surprise when China tested a hypersonic glide vehicle. This vehicle was said to have circled the globe before maneuvering towards its target, showcasing a capability no one knew Beijing possessed. The United States is pushing hard to accelerate its own programs in response. There have been both successes and setbacks, often reported in the press. The U.S. Air Force is working on the Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, ARRW. These public and semi-public tests are a form of strategic messaging. This constant posturing and testing fuels the arms race, creating a cycle of mistrust and escalating technological competition that, unfortunately, makes the world a more dangerous place. Defending against hypersonic missiles is not a single problem. It is a series of incredibly difficult technical challenges that must be solved simultaneously. The first and most fundamental challenge is detection and tracking. We need a birth-to-death tracking capability, see the missile from launch to intercept or impact. Ground-based radars are insufficient because of the Earth's curvature. The answer? A vast constellation of LEO satellites. But even if we can see the threat, the next challenge is communication. Satellite data must be processed in real time, then transmitted to a fire control system on the ground, or to a fire control system on a ship, or to a fire control system in the air, all within seconds. The third challenge is the interceptor itself. We need a missile fast enough to reach the threat, and agile enough to match its maneuvers. This is a hardcore physics problem. It then needs sophisticated onboard sensors, and an incredibly responsive flight control system for millisecond corrections, pushing the limits of materials science and engineering. Finally, the challenge of cost and scale. Can we afford to build enough interceptors? Adversaries could overwhelm defenses with multiple launches. That creates a brutal economic equation. Despite these immense challenges, the United States and its allies are not standing still. A massive research and development effort is underway across the military-industrial complex to find a workable defense against hypersonic threats. The Pentagon's Missile Defense Agency, or MDA, is at the forefront of this effort. Its primary focus is on developing a layered defense, just as it did for ballistic missiles. The idea is that if you have multiple opportunities to intercept the missile at different points in its flight, you increase your overall probability of success. The first layer of this future defense is what is known as left of launch. This involves using intelligence, surveillance, and cyber warfare to disrupt an adversary's ability to launch a hypersonic missile in the first place. This could mean disabling the launch vehicle on the ground or interfering with the command and control networks needed to fire it. The most ambitious and controversial concept in this area is the idea of a boost phase intercept. The main effort, however, is focused on the glide phase. This is where the MDA's Glide Phase Interceptor program comes in. Major defense contractors like Northrop Grumman and Raytheon are competing to design an interceptor that can be launched from the Navy's Aegis warships. The proliferation of hypersonic missiles is fundamentally altering the global security landscape, and the future it portends is fraught with instability and risk. The primary concern among international security experts is the erosion of strategic stability. For half a century, the nuclear balance was maintained by the knowledge no country could launch a first strike without suffering a devastating retaliatory blow. Hypersonic weapons threaten that stability by creating the potential for a decapitating first strike. A country might believe it can use ultra-fast, maneuverable weapons or destroy nuclear command and control centers before they have time to react. This perception alone is destabilizing. It creates use-it-or-lose-it pressures in a crisis. If a country fears it's about to be hit by a hypersonic attack, it may feel compelled to launch its own weapons first, rather than risk them being destroyed on the ground. This drastically lowers the threshold for nuclear war. Many hypersonic missiles are dual-capable, able to carry a conventional warhead or a nuclear warhead. An adversary detecting a launch would have no way to know which. In such ambiguity, leaders might assume the worst, that they're under nuclear attack, and respond in kind. As we stand on the precipice of this new era, the central truth, the pursuit of speed has created a more fragile peace. The arrival of hypersonic weapons has compressed time and space in warfare, leaving less room for human judgment, diplomacy, error. A missile crossing a continent in minutes, testament to human ingenuity, and a stark reminder of our capacity for destruction. The core of the problem, technology is advancing far faster than political and diplomatic mechanisms. Weapons now operate on a timescale that outstrips human cognition, forcing reliance on automated systems and pre-delegated launch authority. The strategic environment matters, a world of heightened alert tensions that can spike in an instant, misperceptions that can lead to catastrophe. There's a glaring hole: lack of effective arms control for hypersonics. Cold War example, SALT start. Today, there is little appetite for such dialogue. Instead, a retreat from arms control and renewed military competition. The clock is ticking, and it is moving faster than ever before, and the stability of the world we leave for future generations.